All right, I believe I'm live. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, let's see. There we go. We are live. Going to be speaking with a gentleman, I believe, from Britain. Let's see. There we are. He should be joining us momentarily. This gentleman is on a different timeline, so when I start things at midnight or 1 a.m., that's basically like 6 or 7 a.m. for him. So we will see if we can get this going. Now then, we'll probably be discussing broad philosophical topics, but I do want to interview him for a bit, if we can, on what things look like to him over there as a person on the ground. Because I've heard everything from close objectivist friends, like stuff that's going on in Argentina, not a problem, don't worry about that, exaggerated by the media, no worries down there. The gang rape of the little girl in Idaho was not a gang rape, and it wasn't a rape, and there was no knife involved, even if it was something like a gang rape or a rape. You know, what kind of weasels are we talking about here? They're going to ignore everything right up to the moment of truth, and the moment of truth is when the Muslims are on their street. And that's what they've done in Europe, so why not do it here? That's what we did in World War II, so why not try it again? You know, let everything just get completely out of hand before we do anything.
Hello.
Aha! You have joined us, sir. Very good. Is this the gentleman from, are you the same as the one on YouTube of which I'm thinking?
Let's see. What? It's the first time I try to join a Hangout, so I don't know. What are you seeing on the screen?
Jack Nicholson.
And no written words or letters?
Correct. Well, Massimo.
Okay, that's another nickname for me.
So you're Malatempera, Current, and Massimo?
Exactly. I don't know why, but somehow Google and YouTube mix up their nicknames, so that's it.
Yeah, your Google account can only be connected to one YouTube, and then that's screwy. They do a lot of funny stuff.
A technical check. Are you hearing me fine?
Yep, I'm hearing you okay, and I guess you're hearing me fine. Yeah.
Totally good.
All
5
right.
out of 5.
All right, excellent. Now you, sir, are in England, is that correct?
No, I'm in Southern Europe. Southern Europe.
Which,
yes.
Spain, Italy?
Italy.
Okay, the country that doesn't allow Muslim immigrants, they keep telling us here in America.
Well, who does?
You do have Muslim immigrants.
Some Muslims come here, and then they rapidly transited the border and go to Northern Europe.
Oh, I see. So it's not like slums and stuff that you have.
Some of them, I am told, a minority decides to stay here, but then most of them prefer to go to Northern Europe. So,
yeah, they're trying to get up there to Germany, Norway, where the
or even England, you know, through the channel.
Yeah, Denmark, Sweden. Yeah, those places up there are generous.
There is an issue now in the town of Calais, you know.
Yeah.
Which is the town which is directly opposite Dover, to the English Channel, and that's
where the channel enters.
Yes, and the tunnel under the channel. There's the tunnel, you know, the railway, and I think railway, and maybe also car tunnel. I don't know really. I know there's the railway, and they use that passage to go through and enter England.
Right.
But the thing is that in the town of Calais, which is a small village actually, they have no structures to accommodate for such a big flux of people.
Yeah, so they have the Calais slum. I mean, that stuff's pretty widely reported here in America. My impression is that you people don't know very much about it over there. Like,
Over here?
yeah, I mean, your news sources are much more heavily censored than ours, which are pretty bad anyway. But Andrew from Canada didn't know about a lot of stuff that's going on because the Canadian system is censored.
I can tell you one thing, that I mostly listen to the news about Europe from American channels.
Aha.
So I try to use that channel because you know, from the outside maybe the things are much clearer than from inside.
Right.
And I like to keep an international perspective. So I am sort of aware of the situation because I follow maybe CNN or Fox News or other independent channels, news channels.
Right.
So I'm not totally ignorant about the thing.
Right. But is it your impression that some people around you basically are?
Well, there is a sort of blissful situation. Is it blissful correct to say? Excuse me, because sometimes I am not a native speaker, English speaker, so I use words maybe not in the proper manner.
Well, we do have a phrase, blissful ignorance, where you're just...
Yes, I was thinking about that, yes.
I want to just say, Andrew the Red, welcome. I had just mentioned you a second before you came on, so mention the devil.
Yeah. What did you mention?
That you were unaware of some of the things that I thought were pretty... I mean, they're reported regularly in the American press, like the Spratly Islands controversy and stuff.
Oh, you mean the South China Sea stuff?
Yeah. So I was just saying to the gentleman here, Massimo or Malatempura, that seems like the foreign systems are more heavily censored than the American system, which is itself pretty censored. I mean, they won't talk about things that they need to talk about, and they deny things that are happening and are true. So, and they play down things. And, you know, the latest, the Orlando thing's just the latest, and the gang rape of the little girl in Idaho, and yeah. So, well, what did you have in mind to speak about? Because you wanted to get in on several of the hangouts I've done, and you've had to sit there and listen in agony to what we were speaking about without being able to chime in, you know, after it's over. So we can cover, you know, what you were interested in covering. We can do more on current events. That's sort of ephemeral.
I'm assuming you're talking about me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, it's the first time I try to do an hangout at all, and it's the first time with you, of course. And I don't want to take any preference, you know. I just would like to hang out, but if I may, I would like to give you, MrCropper, credit for the work you did in the last maybe 10 years on YouTube, with some hiatus, maybe.
True.
Because I understand you have you had to build your own family.
Yeah.
Maybe that thing made you less of an active YouTuber than in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
When you started out, and maybe there will be more time in the future to talk about the past. I want to acknowledge one thing. You are maybe the first channel I subscribed in the maybe late 2006.
Wow, so it goes back a long time.
Yes.
10 years.
Goes back
10 years. Good.
10 years. It will be 10 years late during the 2016.
Yeah, in just a few more months. So it's 9 years and 8, 9 months. Yeah, but I get the idea. Yeah, that was right when YouTube was brand new because they just went on in early 2006. If I
Time
remember.
flies.
Yeah. Yeah, those
Um,
days of YouTube.
I I don't want to sound cheesy, but you and YouTube in general, and the people who started out doing this kind of stuff helped me a lot in a moment I was very uh, in a down situation because I had a surgery, a difficult surgery at my legs during that time, and I was in bed constantly, and my humor was very low. And finding out some people to watch, to listen to the things they did, helped me a lot to get over that situation, which luckily is in the past. But your persona is linked for me to that episode of my life, so I'm kind of I want to thank you. That's it.
All right. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad that I was able to get on there and reach people. I was having the same sort of situation in my life, I guess, just loneliness and a lack of humor and nobody around to talk to. So YouTube was fantastic for me, informative for me. Now, are you an objectivist or are you just an intellectual thinker, or what's your thing?
Uh, I I must say that I came to know about Ayn Rand from your videos.
Aha.
I didn't know anything about that previously. And since then, I tried to read Atlas Shrugged in Italian because it is difficult to find it in the original English language.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But maybe a friend of mine can find a copy for me. But I tried to read it, but it was very long. So I said to myself, maybe in the future I will complete it. But I read most of it, more than half. But it's not an easy reading. Not an
No,
easy reading.
no, it's not. No, it's definitely not easy. Well, I would encourage you to get her essays and read some of those as well. But if you've watched many of my videos and the videos that my kin make, then you're probably pretty caught up on our basic thinking anyway. So
I am not aware of the whole tenets of objectivism because I'm to tell you the truth, I'm not very interested in philosophy in general. I'm more of a scientist kind of man.
from stuff and the
Yes,
pyramids and
I really hoped to join the Wolfram Hangout, but I couldn't because of the time. You know, we have different time zones, so it's difficult. And so I thank you to go through all that you could do to do this one hangout because it's more easy for me to do that. But getting back to Ayn Rand for a minute, if you want. Even though I am not totally aware of the system, the philosophical system of objectivism, I totally agree with the premise of the Atlas Shrugged book.
of individualism and freedom.
And in particular that only creative individuals carry the burden for most of the people who are mainly lazy. And I can see it around me every day. So, but most of the people does not acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult to accept such a harsh reality.
Yeah. I don't know if they will acknowledge it, and I'm not sure that we need them to. I think we might have to run the world without 90% of the people even knowing what's going on, but if that's how it has to happen, then that's what we need to do. But that's a sort of my attitude, sort of anti-democratic in that way. I don't really care if we vote on it, but we need to have freedom and individual rights. And if we need to put it in place without voting on it, like the founding fathers did, okay.
But because the founding fathers put that in place without voting?
Yeah, well, the Constitution was written basically like a coup, and you know, it all went over because everybody at the time agreed for it to happen, but it was not voted in. So the state by state, uh, they approved certain things, but at the end of the day, they had no authority to get together and write a new constitution. It certainly wasn't in the laws at the time. It was just the fact, it was in the zeitgeist. Everybody was willing to do it and go along. So at some point, we might end up doing that. It won't be a 51-49% vote. It'll just be a group of people who are intelligent telling everybody else, okay, here's the plan for the future. I don't know how it's going to happen, but the wisdom of crowds is increasingly suspect, especially with what's happened to Europe. You people, I thought, were able to vote on things, but your whole continent's going in the shit basket. Again, Jesus Christ, we saved your asses 70 years ago. I don't know.
Maybe you will be coming soon again to save our ass. I hope not. I hope not.
No, I think if
I hope we don't get to that situation, but I must say that I always say to people, even leftists, because I try to have acquaintance in the whole spectrum of politics. I am not a bigot about that, but I always say that okay, we have some kind of attitude against Americans in Italy, in Europe in general, but always remember that Americans saved our ass many times in the past, and we cannot be ungrateful about that, whether we like it or not. That's the history, we must accept it. But when I bring this point up, I usually get frowned upon, you know.
Of course. No man is the hero to his debtors. So they owe us big, but that doesn't mean that they're going to acknowledge it, and doesn't mean they're not going to do the same thing they did last time and flush their place down the toilet. And I don't know if we'll come in and fix it or not. If something happens before Obama goes out, you guys are going to have to stand alone until we get him replaced, because he's a fucking Muslim traitor. But
well, let's see. I hope for the best, sincerely.
Well, whatever happens, I mean, the Muslims over there in Europe are heavily armed already. They know that from the mosques that they've found weapons, military-grade weapons in. So, have you heard about that? Is that?
Sadly, it's a situation. It's a serious situation, and I have no details about this because, as I told you before, European press is sort of muzzled.
Yeah.
About they have the press are or is afraid to bring up certain things because they fear to appear against what the Europe government or Commission wants to say, and in specifically about the migration problems. See what happened last year in Germany. Nobody in the press could say anything because the moment you tried to accuse some of the Muslim community, you immediately get labeled as a racist or xenophobic or worse. I don't know. So as I told you before, I try to get my news from American or Canadian channels or Russian even, because there is a very good channel, I'm sure you know it, Russia Today.
Well,
which is very
they're okay. I have to say that they do have quite a lot of nonsense on there. I mean, everything
yes.
that they talk about when it comes to news with America is how America is a dirty, imperialist aggressor or
Yes,
some.
but when you know that, you know what you are listening to a channel which is not friendly with the Americans. Okay, we know, we give that for granted. But about Europe, they have a much clearer view than European news channels.
Yeah, and if you can read between the lines, you can get the news. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And
Russia today is a source.
in the recent Ukrainian crisis, it was very difficult to find a line, a correct news line, because of course Europe was against Putin.
Yeah.
Russia today, I think, is paid by Putin or something like that. I don't know really. I don't. Or it is very near to the Kremlin positions. And
Well,
of course, American channels mainly are against Putin, but not for the same reason that Germany or Europe are against Putin. So it's very difficult to understand the situation in such cases.
well, it seems it was the same back in the 1930s when there were sort of bad people doing bad things. You know, in Hitler in Germany, Mussolini in Italy, Stalin in Russia, everything going on in Japan and China. And what were people doing and saying back then? They were apparently just letting it go on or even supporting it. So apparently people can get pretty thick into a serious mess before, I don't know, before America comes to the rescue, I guess. What would have happened if we didn't come over in World War II? So I don't know. It's a mess. The world is going to have big, fat, bloody war really soon here.
I would like to say welcome to the gentleman with the big mustaches, red mustaches.
Yeah, Andrew, why don't you chime in? What do you bring to the table we can speak about today? Questions or concerns?
Yeah, here's something for you. You know that Stewart guy that you've talked to a few times? I was looking through my university library, and he has a book. I'm pretty sure it's him. It's that Stewart Hayashi guy, right?
Yeah.
He has a book that's in the subject of objectivism. Like it's, I was just checking out what my library had, and he has some big, like 750-page thing on markets or something like that. Are
Yeah.
you aware of that?
Yeah, well, he sent me numerous chapters while he was writing it, so, and other books. I think that's not his only one.
Do you know, is he a writer, or was that a dissertation, or what was that about?
Oh, he's a writer. Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Is that
Stuart's
is
a
that
long.
his career?
I don't know. I think so. Sort of. I think that's what he is a writer, as his identity or something. He's an objectivist.
When I listen to, once in a while, I listen to Euron Brooks' podcast. I hear him call in sometimes.
Good. That's good. I don't listen to much that's not available on YouTube. I should go to Euron Brooks. What is it? Live radio talk or something?
I think I sent you a message about that on iTunes. There's some podcasts like.
Yeah, and I went and watched it that night, so I'll have to bookmark that and stuff. I'm just prejudiced against YouTube's so easy and it's so big. If I can't find something on YouTube to watch, then I need to go mow the lawn, you know?
Yeah, well, the other one that's maybe not quite as big as iTunes, it's called SoundCloud. They're a little more convenient because iTunes, you have to have a little program that runs the stuff, but SoundCloud is just through the internet, just through a browser. So it's a little more convenient, but I don't think it has all the stuff that iTunes does. But you might better find most of it. Like I think I sent you the Victor Davis Hanson one too, right? They're called The Classist.
Uh-huh.
Got some good stuff on there too, but that's on iTunes. I don't know if it's anywhere else. So.
Yeah, I love Victor Davis Hanson. Can't get enough of that. He tells us that democracies always go to war unprepared. So I guess we don't.
And I also
coming.
sent you the link with that bookstore, the Better World Books.
How did you send that? Is it in my Facebook chat?
On Facebook. Yeah.
Oh, I probably watched it, saw it, looked at it late one night after some beer or something, and I've forgotten. It was in my Facebook chat, though. I'm sure I saw it.
Yeah.
Well, what should we speak of? Because I didn't have a particular thing to do this on. Shall we? I'll tell you what I did get in the mail yesterday was Beyond Good and Evil. So that'll be fun to poke around in that again.
You didn't have a copy?
Back in Utah, I have my old copies, my marked up ones that are all read through. So I had to get a new copy just for the hell of it.
So what did you use to get that? What website?
I think Amazon. My
Okay.
wife ordered it for me. She just yelled from across the room, "Is $3 okay?" And I said, "Yeah." So.
Are you still?
Yeah, you're
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, I was just going to say you're lucky being in the States. The shipping is so cheap, but up here in Canada, you want to get a used book up here in Canada, but shipping, you're going to pay at least $6.50. That's about the bottom.
Well, it is turning into a bit of a scam here because they'll price the books at a reasonable price, and then shipping will be $3.95 or $4.95 or $5.95. So, if you don't pay attention to that, you buy a book for 99 cents or whatever, think you're getting a good deal, and the total comes to $7, and you don't feel so smart. So, okay, Massimo, what should we? What shall I call you, Massimo? Is that
It's okay. It's okay.
all right?
And
So go ahead.
I was a user of AB books, mainly because you told me so in one of your videos.
Excellent.
And I got scammed too a bit by the shipping and handling fees.
That's how they get you.
And that's how they get you exactly. Are you still a book enthusiast? I see from the background.
Yeah, these are all sort of new, fairly recent. So this is just, I've got like probably 100 books here that I've just sort of collected just out of because I'm stressed out because the rest of my books are in Utah in the storage shed. So I gotta have 100 books, I guess, a minimum. It seems.
Just around.
Just in case. And I feel insecure. I want more.
That's really far down from what you used to have.
Well, I've still got all the other ones, so I'm careful about.
Remember your emergency library? That's not even your emergency library. That's smaller than that.
It is. My emergency library this time was like 4 books, and then I had to buy the rest of what you see. So, but yeah, it stresses me out that I want to get on there and look. I want to look at some damn thing. I don't even have my full Ayn Rand library. So yeah, it stresses me out. Oh, Nathaniel Branden's The Psychology of Romantic Love. I couldn't for the life of me remember the title of that the other day, and I was trying to message somebody, and I couldn't go get it off my shelf. That was very frustrating. So yeah, I feel very bad that I don't have my library, but that's all right. I'm rebuilding, and I've got the whole thing in Utah. I have to be careful what I buy because everything I buy that I already have, I'll end up with 2, 3 copies of. So, but the niche is okay. I'm glad to have Beyond Good and Evil. That's such a good book. But
what do you find specifically fascinating in Nietzsche?
Is egoism, just individualism, is pro-individualism. It verges on insanity and so on, but as long as you can just sort of say, oh, well, he's gone a bit overboard there, but that's okay. It's really excellent. It's really inspiring. He's talking about people who are the 1% where everybody else is the 99% who don't care about the thinkers. He's talking to the thinkers, or whoever the 1% is. For him, it's the overman, whatever that means. But like he says things like, to walk on the tops of mountains. For that, one must have long legs. I don't know exactly what it means, but it's a poetic thought, and he's saying that not everybody can do it or something, and just little things like that. Nietzsche's great. Andrew, why do you like Nietzsche? You're also fond of him on some level, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess for the same reason. And I was looking through many years ago. I was looking through, I think it's the Journals of Ayn Rand, and there's a lot of Nietzsche stuff way back when in there too, explicit. And
Yeah,
even I remember reading Isabel Patterson's God and the Machine, and a lot of that stuff too, you could see in Rand. So
did you read that?
yeah,
Did you?
yeah,
Good.
it's like a history. I remember it started out with the Roman history, right? And then I can't remember what happened after that. But it was like a history book almost.
That first chapter or two on the ancient world was excellent, excellent history of Rome, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't remember it off the top of my head. It's been years since I read it, but I do remember I went back and reread just the first chapter or two later on, just because the history of Rome was so good. It was such an excellent history of Rome. Yeah, how does that? What does that do for your understanding of everything? What did you think about the book? Let me hear you say what, if you can.
What, Isabel Patterson? That's such a long time ago. I don't remember much. I just remember the Roman history was good at the beginning. But I wanted to ask about. You probably remember the Greek Way. You probably are lacking that book too. I bet you that hurts because
Yeah.
you don't have it there, do you?
No. No, no, no. Yep. I'm so sorry you reminded me of that. I want that in the Roman way at my fingertips, but the Greek way was superb. Yeah, that's an excellent one. I'm rebuilding my Greek library a bit. I've got Aeschylus and the Oedipus plays. I think that's it for ancient Greek right now.
How
Yeah.
long a drive would it be to pick the stuff up?
Oh, 3 days.
3 days?
Yeah, like going from Vancouver to Quebec or something like that.
It's not that far. I thought you said Utah to Connecticut. Aren't those in the middle?
Connecticut's at the far, far side. I'm like half an hour away from the ocean over here.
Oh, all right, okay.
And then Utah is in the mountain Midwest, but it's closer to Vancouver than it is to Mount Fort
Okay.
McMurray or something like
You
that.
have to drive across the country.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 3,000 miles. So,
You used to live in Delta,
yeah, Delta, Utah. Born and raised.
born and raised in the middle of the USA.
In the desert.
I know. I learned that there is a very big water reservoir near Delta, Utah. Is it correct?
Yeah.
Artificial.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot. There's several dams on the river that goes through it, and there's a great big salt lake out there that only gets water about once every 10 years. And so it's very, very salty. It's a terminal basin. It's kind of like the Great Salt Lake, but it's smaller. And
is it somewhat related to the capital town, Salt Lake City, or?
Salt Lake City's near the big Salt Lake, but the thing is that valley that Utah is on that side of Utah is a terminal basin. The water can't get out; it settles in there. So
It's the lowest part.
yeah, and there's no. So when water gets in there, it evaporates and leaves the salt that it brings. So we've got all these salt basins. The Great Salt Lake's just the biggest one, but they're all up and down the west side of Utah. Some of them have dried out completely, and those are like this Great Salt Flats where they race cars at hundreds of miles an hour and stuff. But the one that I grew up by still gets water every 10 years or so, and so it looks flat and it looks smooth. And one time somebody landed an airplane there in an emergency, and the airplane sank in because it's quicksand.
Oh, see.
So, well, not quicksand, but quick mud or something like that.
So the heartland of America is harsh.
Well, no, that's the western edge. That's over there. You're about a 6-hour drive from California. So this is the far. All right, thank you, Andrew, for popping up.
Bye,
This is the far edge over there. There's The mountains in California block all the moisture from getting into the Utah and Nevada deserts.
Oh, I see. I see.
And then once you go further past the Rocky Mountains, moisture comes up from Texas and Louisiana into that part of the country. So there's just a strip of desert there where the mountains from California block the rain from the Pacific. And that's where I grew up, in the only dry desert in the nation.
And how do you like the place where you live now?
Connecticut?
Yeah.
They're a bunch of twats.
Really?
Yeah, they're all twats. It's really bad. They all hate each other and they're all rude to each other. And they're all left-tard liberals and they're bad drivers. They're so damn scared they won't drive around each other even if there's room. And yeah, they're all knuckleheads. They're Nazis. They're waiting to walk into a gas chamber. If someone tells them to go to a gas chamber, they will. The schools are frickin' awful. The people here are awful. It's terrible. They deserve what comes to them. I can't even imagine what it's like in Europe because...
Well, they cannot be worse drivers than in Rome, I think.
Probably not. I've heard about in Rome, they hit each other all the time.
Well, it's the most dangerous place in the world for pedestrians, Rome.
And red and green lights are just sort of a suggestion.
No, decorative, you know, like Christmas decorations.
Yeah, not a big deal. Don't worry too much about them.
Why waiting for the green light?
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Yeah, it's probably, I don't know what I'd do if I lived in Europe. It's probably better here in Connecticut than any place in Europe. But compared to the people out in Utah, the people in Connecticut are brainwashed, sleepwalking cunts. So
I understand that in the east part of your nation there is the higher concentration of liberals.
Yeah, on the coasts where it's expensive for some reason.
And in California too.
Yep, East Coast and the West Coast.
So that's the source of all evil.
If there's ever a war, the conservatives will just come out of the heartland and push them all into the fucking sea.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get into American politics because it's not of my business, you know. But I feel, I understand how you feel.
Well, we stick our nose in your business fairly often, so I don't know. Maybe we could. I'll tell you. Some of the most reasonable people we have in American politics have come from overseas, like Milo Yiannopoulos and
great guy.
He's great. He is. It's hilarious. He believes in God, but we'll let him off on the hook there.
Okay, we cannot be perfect.
That's right.
Well, but I was talking from a personal perspective, not from the political class. You know, I know that. It's almost obvious that the American government, being the government of the most powerful nation economically and militarily, puts its nose in other countries. It's only natural for me. I understand that some people get angry about that, but it's only natural. But I was talking from a personal perspective, myself. So as a token of respect, I only can give some uninformed opinions about what happens in the USA, because not living there, I have not a precise sensation of what the situation is. I only learn from people like you, the news, what happens. But I am very interested because it's stupid not to be interested in the American politics, because it determines the world politics.
Yeah.
For good and for bad.
Yeah. That seems to be the case. What do you think or know of Trump? I'm sure that the media over there only mentions him to demonize him, and they probably avoid mentioning him if they can.
Of course. Just for one example, the mainstream media picture Trump like the usual stupid rich American who wants power, who doesn't understand a thing. but these are uninformed opinions and sometimes are skewed opinions just to drive a political point home. Because in reality, the situation it's much complex, more complex than these papers or media try to put through. And the reason, I don't know the recent polls about the situation. The polls, somehow I learned that he got a small percentage less in the last few weeks. Is it correct?
We don't. A lot of us don't trust that.
Okay.
I don't trust it. It's probably something more like 70% for Trump and 30% for Hillary.
70?
I think probably so. I mean, from the
you mean 7-0?
Yeah. So I think that's just. I mean, no, the media is not to be trusted, especially on this matter. Either they're leftists or some of them are in the Republican camp, and they're both upset about Trump. Everybody hates Trump, so except the American people.
Even Fox News?
Even Fox News, because they don't think he's a real Republican. I don't know why exactly they hate him, just because they wanted one of their guys to win or something. They're all deadheads. They're dead. I keep saying burn it down. Burn the Republican Party to the fucking ground. And the left has already collapsed. The Democratic Party doesn't even exist. So burn it all down. Fuck it.
You sound like an anarchist now.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Something like that. I mean, I realize that this can't go on. You know, something big's got to change. We can't let Muslims invade our countries and destroy them. And they're trying really hard to get more refugees here to America. They're really pushing it. So it's like we envy what's going on over there in Europe or something. Like we want some of that. So it can't go on. We're gonna have a big war, and then it's not gonna be a question of how many more refugees we bring. If Trump gets in and he stops Muslims from coming here unless they're very heavily vetted, then that would be a big change, and that would be like step one. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't know. Yeah, I am a bit of an anarchist when it comes to the modern government. It'll probably be like it happened in the 1930s. FDR had all kind of socialist laws, and then very quietly in the early 1940s, one by one, we just took them out. We just erased them because they were causing havoc and keeping the economy under. So it'll probably be like that. It'll just be big sweeping change, and we'll just undo a lot of stuff that was done.
Some of the FDR laws are still in place, I understand. Like the food stamp thing.
Yeah, that's actually like that's like a subsidy to the American agriculture industry, really.
Oh, I see.
Some people get those food stamps, so you'd be fucking surprised. Need help. It's like, why don't you sell one of your 3 cars if you don't have money for food? For Christ's sakes, move into a smaller house or something.
Because there are loopholes or stuff like that.
Well, it depends on how much you make and how much you spend. So if your income and your expenses are close enough that your budget's too tight, then the government will help you.
So it's like they encourage you to spend all of your money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They want you to spend. We're actually going to do negative interest rates here. The Fed has come out and said that they do have the authority. I think that might have went to the Supreme Court, but somebody recently made some announcement that the government has the authority to do negative interest rates. And you know what that means is they charge you money for having money in a bank.
That's the American way.
Yeah, they're doing everything they can to get us to spend every penny we have and borrow more and spend that too. So they think that's the only way to fix the economy or run the economy or something. That's
there is a point in that, I guess, that it makes money go around to do productive things.
No, money's only productive if you save it. If you spend it, it's just gone. But if I put thousands of dollars in the bank and leave them sitting there, and then you do also, and we leave it sitting there for 10 years gathering interest, The fact is that money didn't sit there. That money was borrowed out to somebody who then paid back more than they borrowed by doing something like starting a small business or buying a van for their plumbing company. So if me and you go spend it on a blanket that sits in our house and a TV and a nice fountain for the garden, that's not going to increase the livelihood and the well-being of the country. But somebody having an extra plumbing van or a new catering service starting up, that will increase the livelihoods of the country. So if you save your money, it gets borrowed by the bank to people who are trying to be productive and better their lives. If you spend your money, then that money's just gone. I mean, the guy builds you a fountain at the local factory, but it doesn't go into a long-term productive venture. So saving your money is the only way in the long term for the economy to grow. And so that I don't know why they want us to spend it, but probably kneel it.
Well, when I apologize for using maybe the not incorrect word, but when I said spend, I was implicitly intending also productive spending. For example, an entrepreneur who buys a new truck or builds a new factory, you know. I was not thinking about petty spending.
Yeah, right. Well, petty spending is the only thing that they encourage us to do. They really want us to buy houses, and houses are an expense, and they treat it like it's an investment. So they want us to spend our money on things that are not productive. That's their definition, because in America, there's actually a worry of being too productive. And in the 1930s, we spent a lot of our time slaughtering cattle and burning oranges because we thought there were too many cows and too much fruit. And we
to keep the price high?
Yeah, if we destroy large quantities of it, the price will go up or something like that.
Same thing in Europe in the 70s.
Yeah. And it's insane to think, let's destroy wealth and that will make us wealthier. But that's how these people think.
I remember a thing when I was a kid. I was watching television with my grandmother, and they were broadcasting a scene in the news where they were destroying apples, oranges, apricots, all kind of fruit, because the European community told us to do so. For the price thing, and also pouring tons of milk in the ditches for the same reason. And my grandmother, who went through the war, you know, the Second World War, and she knew what hunger means, to be hungry, not to have a piece of bread to eat. She was weeping. Literally weeping, seeing that scenes.
Yeah, and it didn't do any good. It didn't create any more wealth. It just destroyed wealth. But that's how productive we are now.
You told me that putting money in the bank is a way to invest them. But what's the base interest rate in USA?
Very, very low. 1, 2, 3 percentage points.
It's a lot?
No, it's no.
You know how much is in Europe?
Is it negative?
Almost 0.25.
Yeah.
0.25.
I mean, it's so bad here. We've got quantities of money that the rest of the world can only dream of, and our billionaires don't know what to do with it and don't know where to put it, because you can't keep it in a bank because it loses value, because inflation is 5%. So if you can't make 5% on your money a year, your money gets smaller and smaller. And if you have $10 billion, that's a serious worry, because you don't want it to shrink by 1% a year. That's a huge quantity of money. So people are very stressed out here about what to do with money, where to invest it, and how to not let it shrink, how to make it grow. And they are malinvesting in things that are dangerous and not advisable, and they should just be letting that money sit in a bank and be borrowed out to someone who has a brilliant plan.
Idea, yes.
Yeah, and something that will work in the future, but they can't. because there's too much money chasing not enough people to borrow it, and so it's just a mess. They're looking for places to stick their money, and I suspect.
Shouldn't be the job of the bank to facilitate this flux of money from who has the capital to the people who want to do new things?
Should be. The banks are so heavily regulated that that's not the case. So, well, I don't know if we'll ever undo that either. But because of the 2008 crash, they put all kinds of stuff in to check banks to make sure that they weren't lending too much to the wrong borrowers and make sure that they are lending enough to the right borrowers. And of course, being a government program, that's all wrong. So what they're doing is they're stopping banks from lending where they should and forcing banks to lend where they shouldn't. And banks, because they're run by shareholders, don't want to go broke, so they've just seized up the lending, and they just do a lot less lending. So they've done the opposite of what they wanted the banks to do, which is lend more. But the banks are basically saying, if you won't let us lend to the smart bets and the smart money, and you're making us lend to poor black people who won't pay it back, for example, then we just won't lend at all. And that's part of what's going on. And
I see.
Every time the government sticks their thumb in something, they screw it up.
You know, maybe I don't know if you are interested in this thing, but in the Italian constitution, we have we have, of course, a constitution. It's not old as American constitution. We had, if I remember correctly, it was approved in 1948. There is one of the articles which says more or less that the Republic protects the savings, the money savings.
Yikes.
In the Constitution, you know.
Yikes. That's scary.
It's kind of alien for you, a thing like that in the Constitution, I think.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't trust them. I mean, just because they put it in there doesn't mean that they have the ability to do it. They don't have the ability to do it.
In fact, there is one thing about our Constitution that not all the articles in the Constitution become active law. There are more kind of principles, you know. But not all have a law that enforces that principle.
That's even scarier. So what good's your Constitution?
It's a good piece of literature for me because it was written in a good Italian, very good Italian, but maybe half of that was implemented, not more than half. You know, the first article says Italy is a republic which is founded on work.
On work?
On work.
I guess they could. That's probably the strongest value they had in 1948 that they could identify with, huh?
I think that comes from the Communist Party.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
you did have a big Communist Party during Soviet Russia times there.
There was even a time when the Italian Communist Party was the first party in Italy for the number of votes, you know.
Yeah.
But of course, for international political reason, this party could not participate directly in the government because it was linked more or less directly with the Soviet Communist Party.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was maybe in elementary school, there was a time when at the polls, Communist Party got 32% of the votes.
Wow.
So it was the first party.
Yeah, you guys are lucky you escaped that. I guess you tried awfully hard to turn communist, but somehow didn't.
Yes, it was a close call.
Are you tempted to think that countries deserve what they get?
Uh,
It's hard to say that because you're in that country.
it's hard to say. I think individual people usually don't get what they deserve.
Yeah, collective justice is not. Yeah, it's not a valid concept. The individuals in the country don't deserve it, or not all of them do. But
you know, you have to live in, if you like it or not, you have to live it inside our society.
yeah,
So you have to accept decision made by your peers, so to speak. It's kind of deserving, because if I decide to live inside a community, I deserve what happens in that community, in the good, in the bad.
Unless you're speaking up or doing something about it or fighting it or something.
Well, I'm coming to an age when
I'm not encouraging you to. You'll end up in jail as a racist or something.
Racist?
Yeah, if you go out and say Muslims need to go back to the Middle East or something.
Oh yeah, about that. But for the time being, in Italy, there is more free speech about that than in the rest of Europe. There are many people who can say that, even political people, you know, and they got no problem.
Good.
But if a regular Joe like me tries to say a thing like that, maybe I get beaten up, you know.
Wow.
So, but I try not to be an extremist. I try to appeal to the rational side of people if I can. Even if sometimes appealing to the rational side means, you know, how can you say? There is a way of saying, like you pet a cat in the wrong side of the hair, you know.
Right. Rub them the wrong way.
Right, rub them the wrong way, yes, like that. Well, but you know, I try to convince using logic if I can, more than try to bring other people's opinion to my side because I speak loud, you know.
Right. What's your view of the European Union as an empire or a dictatorship where you have an unelected leader that none of you know who they are and where they came from?
Yeah, that's a big problem, because it's a technocracy. These people are chosen by elected official, but the process is not completely transparent, you know. It's not completely clear, and but as in almost all things in life, I cannot say that the European Union is completely bad or completely good. And frankly speaking, in the today's situation, if somebody asked me like you just did, or intended to ask me, if you could, would you like to stay in the European Union or go outside? I frankly do not know what's the worst scenario, just staying inside or going outside, like the British people are now called to decide. That will be a very big event, because it maybe will convince other people in Europe to pose themselves the same question. At that point, I don't know what it will happen.
Well, I think if they vote I think probably the vote's going to be fixed, so they're going to vote to stay. But if they do vote to exit, if they can't fix the vote and it's too big of a landslide, then they're going to vote to exit, and the bureaucrats are just going to fuck it all up and make the exit not happen, or make it a screwy exit or a half-hearted exit, and they're going to stay tied up to the continent mainly. So I think it's just a disaster that's going to grow worse no matter what the Brexit vote is.
I think you have a very clear picture of the situation. Yes.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's what it looks like. So, and maybe if there's a successful Brexit, then like you're saying, other countries could start considering it too, and the whole thing could start to unravel. But that's wild optimism, I'm afraid. I think we'll just have to have a huge war. And it's been a long time. I mean, Europe's got a tradition of a war every 20 or 30 years. So how 70 years without a war? I mean, they're ready.
Well, God forbid.
Yeah, I'm an atheist, so...
I was saying that as a figure of speech, of course. Yes, yep. I'm an atheist too.
No, I'm sure you are. I recall that from comments and such. But well, listen, why don't we change a little bit over to physics or science stuff?
By all means, by all means.
Yeah.
What? How did the Wolfram Hangout go?
Good. We discussed. Various stuff. We stayed pretty much on topic, and I found that there are objectivists who are aware of these things. I'm not quite so worried about it now as I was, but I am going to continue to try to spread the word, as it were, about Wolfram and the meaning of his stuff. I think it's really broad esoteric meaning, but I think it's important for the thinkers of the future to be aware of it, even if, because we got objectivists are going to have to straighten out science. Right now, they say that subatomic particles are created when you perceive them and all this shit. That's got to be straightened out. So in order to understand science properly, we need Wolfram. So I'm going to keep driving at it. But I'm glad to know that there are objectivists who are basically aware on some level of his ideas.
If you could explain in maybe 20 words or less, what's the importance of Wolfram work? What could you say?
That very complex, unsimplifiable behavior, random behavior, that cannot be simplified into formulas or equations and cannot be analyzed mathematically. Very complex random behavior can be created by extraordinarily simple rules. Very, very simple rules. So if that's true, then we don't need any magical man ever to do anything. We can do everything. The universe can do everything with extraordinarily simple rules. Unlike the patterns on mollusk shells look very complex, but according to Wolfram, it's a very, very simple rule that just gets reiterated millions of times, and each iteration changes a little bit, and it looks complex to us, but it's actually extremely simple. It's actually just one very simple rule that reiterates. So we can get everything we see in the universe possibly from one or two very, very, very simple rules.
Oh, I see. But I must tell you that I am sort of a physics buff.
Okay, good.
I have not completed my education, but I continually read by myself. Because I like physics and also mathematics very much. So when I can, I try to expand my knowledge. And I came to know about Wolfram book before you did your first video. But I couldn't grab a copy of that because it's extremely difficult to find a copy of that book in Italy.
That's too bad. You probably have to pay through the nose to get it from abroad, but...
I recently perused the AB Books store, and maybe I can get one used copy for less than $15. now, so maybe I will get it. But the thing, the summary, the brilliant summary you just did, is not does not strike me as unfamiliar, because when I used to study, I came across more than one instance of such behavior, even in the classical fields of physics and mathematics. For example, when I try to understand what a fractal is, and some of the principal examples of fractals are generated by very simple algebraic formulas. But the end result of the computation is completely wild. So it's not unfamiliar to me, this idea. So I wonder what Wolfram contribute is to advance this idea.
Well, according to Wolfram, basically everything that he has said was said earlier by computer scientist engineers. So in the 1960s, there was work done on this. In the late 1930s, and in 1943 or 44, something was published on it. So I don't think that he's like original in that sense. I think that he has synthesized it, put it together into a statement of this matters, this is the future, it's not just for computer science geeks to run programs on their computer, this is going to change science as we know it, it's going to change the understanding of physics as we know it, it's going to change how we look at quantum gravity and subatomic systems. So I think that he was saying, listen everybody, pay attention, this stuff is seminal and it's going to change the world. It's going to change how we think. It's going to change how it's going to do for science what Darwinism did for science. So Darwinism gives us, excuse me, Darwinism gives us a way to explain how things come into being step by step and become very complex. And this gives us a way to understand how complex things come into being without all the machinery of life and evolution and stuff. Just simple physical iterations can lead to complexity, if Wolfram's right, or in the case that he is. So I think that he has synthesized it. I think that he's put it together in a way that's meaningful, and he's basically told people, stop ignoring this, stop pushing it to the side, it's going to change everything, pay attention, set up and listen.
I see. I was thinking while you were talking about this thing, I was thinking that even if you think about it, even the simplest law existing, the Newton gravitational universal law, you know, the force is proportional to the masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance. It mathematically is very simple. It's almost a kindergarten equation. But this is the law that governs systems as complex as the solar system, which is known not to be predictable in the long run. In the long run, scientists, as far as I know, are pretty much convinced that the long-term behavior of the solar system is unpredictable, is chaotic. So once again, this thing that simple rules can give rise to complex behavior, it's familiar for me. So I was thinking, I was wondering what step further can put the Wolfram work in this field, except maybe you just told me that maybe you were hinting at the fact that the scientific community is usually not prepared for such breakthroughs.
Yeah, well, one thing that is a very, very serious accusation of Wolfram is that the universe whatever the early stage was, assuming the Big Bang is true, skipping past its problems for the moment, whatever the Big Bang was, there may have been changes, events, cause and effect from that early period, which have led to our universe as it is today. And we may not be able to erase or go back to that earlier stage. The stuff that the universe was made of at that time might be gone. And our universe might be made of different stuff now that has changed from that original cloud of energy or whatever it was. Now, if that's the case, then all this money we're spending at CERN is just us taking apart our universe today. And it doesn't tell us, you know, like it doesn't, if you take a human being and cut them down into really small pieces, you're still not going to find that original bacteria from early life that was the first bacteria or whatever, the first amoeba to exist. You're never going to get there by cutting a human being up in small pieces. And what they're doing is they're taking atoms from the modern evolved universe and smashing them to see if they can get to high energy levels of the early Big Bang. But the analogy, if Wolfram's analysis is correct, then that analogy is not going to hold. You cannot cut up a human and find out what the first life was like.
So you cannot go back anyhow.
Right.
In any kind of analysis.
That's what Wolfram says about. He says if this is the case, then all of the experiments we're doing today cannot be separated from the universe we are in today. They are sort of in train with everything that's happened in the universe so far. So you can't just isolate an experiment and say this is what it was like in the early Big Bang, because you don't have any of the tools and you don't have any of the material from that. And everything's going to behave differently because it's all gone through the evolutions that he speaks of in what he says is the nature of the universe. So I think, is that an interesting, what if Wolfram's work could lead to people saying, let's shut down CERN because it's not teaching us what we thought we were going to learn?
Also, you are assuming there is also some politics in this area.
Yeah, that's not.
There is some political agenda.
Yeah, it's 99% politics, yeah. If they could use CERN to investigate global warming, I'm sure they would.
The alleged global warming.
Yeah, the alleged global warming where Antarctica's ice sheet is growing. But if we have more carbon in the atmosphere, it just means plants will grow better. So carbon dioxide's plant food. But
yes. Maybe in the future there will be more plants than people. It's okay for me.
yeah, they are trying very hard to push the global warming agenda. I know that it's much, much worse for you people over in Europe. Here in America, we have large parts of the government. A lot of the Republicans can't even, publicly they won't say anything about global warming being true or anything. They might believe it in private, but they can't say it in public because so many Republicans are so mad about it and don't believe it and question it. So even the Republican intelligentsia that are in power in government, they might believe it, but they have to be careful saying that they believe it.
Do you believe it?
No, I don't care if it's true. It doesn't matter. We can't destroy human industry for that reason. If you're upset about it, let's go build a moon colony. We can cut down on pollution because look at the fact that only wealthy Western nations that use lots and lots of oil, only those nations are clean. So if you want a clean environment, oil's the answer. If you want a filthy, dirty environment full of disease, then coal and wood burning and fossil fuels have to be left out. So it's well, coal's a fossil fuel. I misspoke there slightly, but it's the wealthy oil burning societies that are clean, that have hospitals and swept streets and sewer systems. So it's obvious to me that in the long run, if you want clean air, clean water, a clean city, burn oil.
Well, the sad thing is that such issues are serious issues, but they are tainted by the politics around it. So it is impossible to talk about such issues in a clear and unpolitical way.
Yeah,
Because maybe there is some truth about the climate change, and there are issues about it, but the political parts use this issue as a tool to bring about their own agenda. So what could be an interesting topic becomes only a tool,
yeah,
a secondary tool. It's like the same thing for the OGM, in Italian is OGM, which means genetically modified organism. In the last years in Europe, there was a high number, a very high number of people who protesting about this kind of plants for the agriculture. But I recently found out that it's the cheapest way to feed people all around the world. So if you take the political position to oppose this kind of plants, you must assume the responsibility to starve half of the world, maybe.
yeah. And you probably have heard about Norman Borlaug and the work he did in India with the super productive wheat with enriched vitamins and minerals in it.
Sorry, the name was?
Norman Borlaug, B-O-R-L-O-G.
Oh, never heard about it.
So according to Penn and Teller, you've probably heard of Penn and Teller's bullshit?
No, excuse me, no.
Penn and Teller, you know, the magicians?
I'm out of my depth here, really.
All right,
The
well,
magician. He's a magician. Would you repeat it?
Penn and Teller.
He's a magician?
They are a team of magicians. One of them got attacked by a tiger once or something.
Oh, yes, now I remember. Yes. I didn't recall the names. Yes. What happened?
For a number of years, they did a show called Bullshit, and every week they would they would pick something out and they would explain why it was bullshit. So they did things like, and it was good stuff. It was stuff that I couldn't take exception to, except they did a couple fluffy ones like boob jobs are bullshit, and I don't know what they were trying to prove there, but they did things like herbal medicine is bullshit, and environmentalism and recycling is bullshit. They actually went into how recycling is bullshit, because it takes more energy to recycle a glass jar than to make a new one. So, you know, if you want,
it's at the banking, sort of the banking.
Banking.
The banking, the DEBU. Debunking.
Oh, debunking. Yes.
Debunking.
Yep. Yeah. It was a debunking show, and one of the things they did was on GMO. And
GMO.
According to them, Norman Borlaug is responsible for approximately 1.6 billion lives, if I remember right. It was really enormous number.
Oh, shit.
Without his innovations in rice and grain that he did in India over the 1970s and 80s or 60s and 70s, without his innovations, there would have been 1.6 billion fewer people on the planet, according to them and their calculations, or maybe it was 1.2 billion or something, but you know, a gargantuan number of people, basically the population of China today, spread out across the world, across Asia and Indonesia and Southeast Asia. So yeah, look into him, Norman Borlaug, if you're allowed to. I don't know if your internet allows that sort of thing, but
well, I guess so. But so he is responsible for more people or less people?
More people, because the type of grain that they had couldn't grow in dry conditions, and it didn't have sufficient vitamins and minerals in it. It was a low quality food, and nearly 1 billion people were surviving on only that. And it wasn't just grain that he transformed, it was rice as well. Higher yields, not only higher yields, but it has more vitamins and minerals in it. So it's healthier. You don't get the mineral deficiencies if you eat bread. You actually get your minerals. Very important.
Yes.
So Norman Borlaug, yeah, responsible for the lives of more people. And if they have their way, all of his work would be undone, because that's genetically modified organisms.
Which is one of the thing the leftist people hate.
It seems like they choose anything that's good for humanity, and they hate on it.
Almost always, yes.
It's very suspicious behavior, I have to say.
And my humble self, I must admit, I was a leftist in my youth.
Most people are.
Most people, yes. But, you know, someone said that if you are not a leftist at 20-year-old, you have no heart. But if you still are at 40, you have no brains.
Yeah. I skipped that a little bit, I guess. I was a rightist all the way. Well, I was an objectivist in favor of capitalism and freedom starting around the age of 14. So I never went through the leftist bit. But so I guess I don't have a heart. I guess I plead guilty.
Yeah. I remember an episode of the old MrCropper channel when you got... you told us that you got almost beaten up by socialists in a meeting because you crashed the meeting.
Yeah, those were fun times. I don't know what would happen if I went back today. It's been 15 years since I was on campus, and nowadays...
Was it a university campus?
Yeah, university campus. And nowadays, I would probably be arrested. They probably wouldn't usher me out. I would probably get arrested nowadays. The police detained me when I was putting up flyers that one time, and so I thought I was going to be arrested that time and charged with hate speech or something. But
yes, if I remember correctly, you were putting out flyers about the Mohammed cartoons.
Yeah, with one of the censored cartoons that nobody would show on the news and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Nobody liked it.
Well, you know, maybe you could be arrested, but at least you wouldn't be gunned down.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
In Paris, those people who continued putting out cartoons got gunned down 1.5 years ago. You remember?
Yeah, Charlie Hebdo.
Yes.
Or whatever it is. Yeah, so I'm facing a lot less here, even if I've been arrested. Yeah, true. Easy times over here, I have to say. And you know, by harassing me and calling the police on me, they ended up getting my face on the cover of the local sort of the region's sort of free want ads thing that comes out every week with 1 million things, and it's free on every corner.
So you had free publicity.
Yeah, and then of course the university radio station called and wanted me to come in for an interview because I was on the cover of this magazine. So they just gave me a lot of publicity. So it was fine. Fuck them.
Okay.
And I'm right. I mean, in the long run, I was right. We can't allow the Muslims to muzzle our free speech. So that was 15 years ago I was upset about that, or actually it's like 12 years ago now that happened or so. But the people that were trying to silence me and stop me, how stupid do they look now? I mean, the Muslims are a problem. They're a real problem.
In fact.
Yeah.
I think that free speech is the most important freedom we have.
I think it's slightly second to guns, but
okay. I know, but we have a slightly different situation here in Europe. We are not supposed to have guns privately.
Well, that's gonna cause problems. You guys need to have guns.
I recently went to put my signature to a law proposal because, you know, if you legitimately have a gun in your house, in your home, and use it against a burglar or an intruder, the burglar, the intruder, can sue you.
Yeah, that's
because it's not considered a legitimate defense. And there is a proposal to change this law, at least to make it a bit less harsh on the family who got attacked by the invader, the intrusion. But I don't know what will happen. It's a long way to get to a thing like your Second Amendment.
Yeah.
A very long way.
I don't know if you ever will. We might have to go through another purging and who knows. But you guys should have a Second Amendment. Everybody should. And Americans are fighting so hard against their own Second Amendment. So I don't know if there's any hope. But, you know, George Orwell said that the future of humanity is just picture a boot stamping on a for forever.
A boot on your face forever. Yes, from 1984.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books.
Yeah. Well, it's a terrible book, but it's a good one. Yeah. So that if that's the future of humanity, then no, you're probably never going to get a Second Amendment, and they're probably going to keep putting more restrictions on it here in the States. And recently, a writer for one of these leftist newspapers wanted to prove that it was super easy to get an AR-15 rifle. So he went out to buy an AR-15 rifle, and he got rejected because he has a history of spousal abuse, of beating his wife. So all he proved was that you can't get it and he publicized the fact that he's a wife beater. So you can't, if you've been domestic violence, you can't get a gun here. If you've been suicidal, you can't have a gun.
If you have drug-related issues.
Yeah, if you have drug issues, if you're a drug user, you can't have a gun. There are lots and lots of restrictions, even here, and that's a disaster. I mean, that's only going to turn out badly in the long run. 90% of the mass shooters in America are Democrats. So if we could just stop Democrats from getting hold of guns, we could just do checks. You go to buy a gun and just say, "Are you a Democrat?" Yes. Okay. You can't have the gun.
Ruled out.
Yeah, that would stop a lot of the mass shootings.
Well, my own position, which is completely theoretical, because in Europe we have no gun rights, is that bad people will always get to have guns, whether we like it or not. The good people, the family father, the woman who wants to protect herself and legitimately, should have at least the same chance as the bad guy. So I'm completely in favor to gun carrying rights for this simple reason, because if you don't give this right to good people, only the bad people will have guns.
Yeah. Very simple logic, but the left just doesn't get it, or else they want destruction or something. I don't know if they want destruction, but they sure act like it. They wouldn't act any different if they did want to destroy society. But yeah, you know what happens in Texas when Muslims get out of control.
I know something about Texan peoples, yes. I think maybe a little localized war will happen.
Not in Texas.
You say that they will prevent it?
You guys are having localized wars in Germany and Finland and Sweden. In Texas, when the Muslims come with their guns, they get shot and killed on the spot before they raise any trouble.
So a very short war.
Yeah, well, in Texas, Texas is going to be like, it's like a minor version of America writ large. we're not going to have the problems with Muslims in America that you guys are having overseas, because our Muslims have to integrate and support themselves, and the ones that don't and aren't are surrounded by hundreds of millions of guns. So they've got to behave. They're trying to take over Dearborn, Michigan, and I wish them luck. There's really not much left up in Michigan. They can sort of have it, but they are not going to be in a happy place when they try to start fighting. If they do, if they try to bring jihad here, it's not going to work.
Yes, I recently had the occasion to. There is an echo. I had the occasion to find out of many places in rural America that got practically invaded. They have 80% strangers from the third world countries there, of different ethnicities, maybe North Africans or Near Asia or East Asia. I don't know exactly, but the situation is that in 20 years, these small cities got from being completely American to almost non-American.
Well, I don't know any place where that's particularly true, except up in Michigan, where the Muslims are.
I don't know if I am mistaken, but I was reading about near the capital city, near Washington D.C.
Well, we do have a long history of bringing very large numbers of refugees here, everything from Korea and Vietnam, even when other people have wars. Afghanistan, we brought a lot of people here from Afghanistan, Kuwaitis. So we have a very long tradition of just importing gargantuan numbers of people when we get the opportunity. And Muslims are going to be a problem, but we're probably going to bring a lot of them in. Because we have a long tradition of that. And we have things like in the middle of Oklahoma City, there's Vietnam town, because tens of thousands of Vietnamese came here during the Vietnam War, and they have like their own little area in Oklahoma City in the middle of the Midwest. So yeah, we do have a very long tradition of bringing large numbers of people and just not worrying about it, because that's our culture, is to
be accepting.
Yeah, people come here and they do their thing. So
to be honest, you have a lot of real estate too.
Yeah, plenty of room to spread out, and that's true.
You have no idea what Italy is. We have practically we have not a square mile unoccupied by some house, some factory, some people. There is no empty space in Italy.
Well, go to China, and I'll bet you'd come back and see a lot of empty space.
You mean in China?
I mean, if you think it's crowded in Italy, yeah, go check out China, and then you would come back and you would look around and you'd say, all right, we can put a few buildings up here and there.
But China has a lot of people, but is a very, very big country too.
Yeah, true. Well,
I think we have more density than China.
Well, your problem is population implosion now. 20 years from now, you guys are going to have very, very few employees and lots of old people.
Correct.
So that's an upside down pyramid. Upside down pyramids tip over.
You are correct. And I don't know what the solution is to that issue.
Well, your politicians think that it's
immigration.
Yeah. And that's what the answer has been in America for a long time. Without immigration, our population would stand still. So we are just at replacement rate in America, about 2.2 kids per family. So
2.2.
Yeah, about that in America, and that's slightly off.
In Italy, it's a 1.7.
Yeah, I heard it was as low as 1.2 in Italy.
Maybe halfway between what you say and what I say. Maybe 1.5.
Probably, yeah.
But very low, very low.
Yeah, it needs to be like 3 or 4 to have a booming, bustling economy. So that's just not going to happen again. I mean, Rome fell apart because they got wealthy and comfortable. Britain fell apart because it got wealthy and comfortable. Spain fell apart because it got wealthy, and France fell apart because it got wealthy. The Dutch fell apart because they got wealthy and comfortable. Portugal fell apart because they got wealthy and comfortable. Everybody gets wealthy and comfortable and falls apart. So
history repeats.
Yeah, I don't know when America's going to fall apart, but we sure are wealthy and comfortable.
But America is one of a kind, I think.
Yeah, hopefully we're unprecedented and we don't have to fall apart. But Rome lasted 800 years, you know, even though at the end of it, it wasn't the same as it was at the beginning. But so if America can last 800 years, shit, we just got started. We're only 250 years old. So fascinating fact that America is older than virtually every democracy in Europe combined.
Yes, from a political point of view, it's correct. Yes,
Yeah.
Even though, as a nation, for example, the French are older.
Well, but I mean, is there continuity between France before World War II and after World War II?
It's debatable. What do you mean by continuity?
I mean, I mean, I know that it's the same people, but what about their government and their system, their constitution?
No, it's changed a lot.
Yeah. What I heard about Victor Davis Hanson said, if you go into a library and look for a copy of the French Constitution, you'll have to go and ask the librarian. And the librarian will say, oh, yeah, that's filed under periodicals.
It's true, it's true. They went through at least 5 revisions.
Yeah. So
since they became a republic, maybe 6 times.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have done much good because they're a goddamn mess now. So,
well, it's complicated. Can I ask you something to change the subject?
Yeah, we should. I'm just so upset about war, the coming war. Yeah,
but it's a fact that people tend to talk about politics. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't know each other much.
Right. It's like the web.
Yes, like the web. But I remember a series of videos that you did maybe 5-6 years ago. And you did those videos on request by someone about principles of physics like force, mass. Do you remember?
Yeah, was it the Greek concepts of those?
You started with those concepts. Yes, I watched that videos a couple of times, and I remember that you started from a historical point of view.
Yeah, I recall. I haven't watched them recently, but
did the guy that asked you to do that videos thanked you?
I suppose.
Did he get back to you?
I don't recall.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I've had done over 1,000 videos, and lots of people write me and ask me for things, and then say thank you and stuff, and I do get donations where they say I don't want any particular video, just here's the donation and thanks for what you do. Make more videos of whatever kind you want. So no, I don't remember the particulars of that. But did you find it helpful or useful or interesting, or?
As I told you before, I'm sort of an autodidact, you know, a self-learner. So I tried to get to different sources. So I always like to hear a different point of view, because one thing is sure, that I have no clear ideas about physics and science, because the more you think you get it, the more it's an illusion in reality, because psychologically you have the impression to have grasped a subject, but then suddenly there is a detail, an aspect that you did not consider, so you are frustrated. You must get back to the principles. It is frustrating, but it's also fascinating in a way. So when I can, I try to listen to people who has a point of view which I didn't consider before. In that sense, your video was very interesting to listen to. But it is clear that your perspective is mainly historical and philosophical,
as opposed to coming from the view of a scientist, a trained physicist or something.
That's my impression, yes.
Yeah. So is there something you would correct me on, or something you took exception to?
Well, I don't remember the details now offhand, but if you go in the archives, you will find maybe a couple of comments I did a couple of years ago. If you have time, you could look at the comments and see.
We could.
When you want.
So you corrected a historical note or a modern physical?
Maybe a couple of definitions that I did not agree with. Let's see if I can see. Okay. Search. Force, Mass, and Energy is the title. I found out. Yes, the first comment I see is from myself, and it says, energy is not ability to do work. Because one of the first things you said is that energy is the ability to do work. And this is a thing that I spent a lot of time discussing with many people. And I don't know if I am no expert in the matter, of course, but I have a strong opinion about that, because I found that this definition is somewhat misleading.
Okay, go ahead. What would you correct?
Maybe I can make you an example. Consider two planets or two stars, okay? A binary star, you know, gravitationally linked one to each other. And consider, for example, as a completely theoretical example, that they start to attract each other and get closer and closer and closer. You know, and so their energy, their kinetic energy is going up because they are faster and faster, you know. So, but each one does work on the other to accelerate the other. So how can it be possible that one of the stars' energy goes up even though it does work? If it does work, its energy should go down.
Well, there are two types of energy. It has potential and kinetic energy.
Yes.
So as it speeds up, its potential energy is used up and its kinetic energy increases.
Okay.
So, I don't know, do you not think of it in terms of potential and kinetic? I mean, everything in the universe is at the top of a hill, and it's all going down the hill. And the gravity wells are the bottom of the hill. So, the black hole's at the bottom of the hill.
But the potential energy is also increasing when they got closer.
Not, I mean, I'm not a trained physicist. I don't know, but I don't think so. You don't have more potential energy when you've rolled down to the bottom of a hill. They're rolling down a hill towards each other, and when they combine, then that's that. So they're as you roll
when they get closer, the potential energy, you're right, is getting less and less, and less. Yes, but the kinetic energy is going more and more.
Yeah.
So what happens?
The total energy never changes.
Never changes. Okay. So how can the energy does not change, but work is done? This is the contradiction. How can you link work done with the energy if work is done but energy is not changed?
Well, it changed from potential to kinetic.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. So what you meant is
when the stars combine, finally, when they collide and combine, the motion of both of the stars, the energy and the movement of the stars is going to still be in the spinning of the new star, or whatever forms, if they conglomerate into one star or whatever, that will be spinning with the energy, the angular momentum or whatever that both of the original stars had, minus whatever mess it takes to get them to combine. But the potential energies, when they're at the top of the hill, and their kinetic energy increases and increases until all of their potential energy is gone and it becomes one unit, and the kinetic energy is the only thing that's preserved.
But the total energy is constant, doesn't change.
Yes. The universe.
So if the energy is not changed, how can it be used to do work? Because you told that energy is the ability to do work. In this sentence, I understand that to do work, you have to sort of spend energy.
Right.
But if energy does not change, it means that no work can be done?
No. Energy can change. It dissipates. Well, there was the physicist, I believe, is Roger Penrose, one of Stephen Hawking's buddies.
Yes, I know that.
You know about him drinking the tea?
Penrose?
Was it Penrose? Drinks his tea and feels guilty?
I didn't know about this.
He feels guilty because that heat that he used to heat that cup of tea up is now dissipated and will be for all the rest of the history of the universe. It was organized. It came to his house in the form of coal or electricity or whatever. He used it to heat his tea. Then it's disorganized and now it's dissipated. So that energy is still there, but now it is in random molecules floating in the air or whatever, where it used to be organized and in a central place and so on. So yes, the total amount of energy in the universe never changes, but it also constantly can do less. More of it has been used. It's constantly being used up. It's a battery. The universe is a battery that's running down. And once it gets run down, the whole battery itself will still be there, but it'll be all spread out and useless, and it won't be able to do any work. All of the potential energy will have been used up.
Okay.
Again, I'm not a trained physicist. This is my understanding of what I studied. I did study physics in high school and in some sort of special class or whatever, but does that address what your concerns were or answer you in any way?
I was reading other comments. There are many comments made by a friend of yours, Super Thin Guy.
Uh-huh.
But they are very old, 5-year-old comments.
Yeah, that's young for my videos.
There are maybe 20 comments by this guy. but I didn't read them all. So maybe after the hangout, I will go out and read them carefully.
Yeah, we can definitely discuss this because we've got Piero, and he's into physics, and there's several other Super Fin guy, obviously, and there's several other objectivists who showed up on the Hangouts that love to discuss physics. So we could grind over that stuff again, especially maybe a recap of the Greek ideas would be interesting too. But okay, what do you think about Elon Musk and SpaceX and what's going on with that?
Pardon?
You know about
Elon Musk?
Yeah.
The guy with the reusable booster.
Yeah.
I think it's. I don't know the details really. The only thing I know is I saw some videos. Sadly, I saw one situation in which the booster came back the hard way.
And it landed and tipped over?
Yes, like that.
Yeah, that was
And,
the first one.
I don't know how many millions of dollars went in smoke in this single episode.
Nothing. No
Nothing?
money went up in smoke. Nothing. No money went up in smoke.
Really?
Yeah, because that was just a test. They've done several more. They're getting better at it. They have landed it, and it stood up at the end and didn't fall over. So that money was invested, not burned up.
So that was a test.
Yeah, and what that's going to go towards, that was a test. They didn't even really expect it to land on the barge. It had to land on a barge in the ocean. They wanted it to come back down and get close to the barge, but it actually landed on the barge. So that was better than they even expected. And they said it doesn't matter if it hits the barge or not. We're going to learn a lot from it. And it actually.
Anyhow, I think it's a magnificent result.
Super Fin guy, hello. We were actually just speaking of you. Were you listening?
Oh
Hello,
no, I
hello.
just jumped in.
We were talking about my old video of force, mass, and energy. I think this is the one.
Yes.
And you had a.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that video. I think it was a very interesting video. I remember that.
Well, Massimo here was just saying to me that if the ability to work, if the total energy in the universe doesn't change over time, then how can the ability to work decrease? Massimo, did we go over that enough to clarify it for you, or?
Yes, there was another example which I found in another comment, which is by a man who has the same nickname as me, but I read it. Consider a star and a single planet in a circular orbit around the star. So in this case, each part of the system has always the same energy, but there is force. So another sentence that you said in the video is force is energy input or release. Might be misleading because in this case, planet in circular orbit around the star.
Not completely circular, right?
Excuse me?
It's not a completely circular orbit.
For example, consider it is possible to have a circular orbit.
It's not possible, not according to Newtonian mechanics.
Why not?
Well, yeah, it's sort of like always an ellipse, right?
Yeah, it's a minor ellipse.
Even if it has it's very close to a circle, it's still an ellipse, you know.
Yes, but for the sake of argument, we can assume that we have, for all practical intents and purposes, a circle.
Well, I need it to be an ellipse because the planet gets squoze out of shape as it goes closer and further from the star, even if it's very minor, and that causes friction, and the rotation of the planet slows. So over time, that has a real effect. I mean, the Earth's hour used to be 17. The Earth's day used to be 17 hours. Now it's 24. So our planet is slowing down. It's rotating slower and slower and slower. So I need all the stuff that really goes on in reality to talk about what the planet's going to do in the long term, in billions of years.
Okay, so consider another example, maybe simpler. Consider a weight tied to the end of a rope, and you make the rope go around in a circular motion. Okay. In this case, the system has constant energy, but force is exerted on the weight because of the
centrifugal force.
Yes, of course. So when in the old video, Brandon said that force is energy release or input, it seems to suggest that whenever you have a force, then you have some kind of energy release or input. And the example I just made should say that it isn't the case.
Well,
that's my...
Even though the energy is not going anywhere, you still have a force on the rope, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is, but you still have something is given in. Maybe if you spin the rope for a long time, the rope will eventually break.
And you're heating up the air you're spinning it through, and you can't spin it in a circular motion. It would also spin in an ellipse. If you've ever done a lasso, your hand goes back and forth like that as you're spinning it.
Well, okay, but as long as the motion is circular, it may be for a long time, there is no energy release and input.
Okay,
But
like
the motion can't be circular. What if the motion can't be circular? What if reality won't allow it?
The motion is very close to a circle, but never in an infinitesimal level. It's never a circle. It's always an ellipse. It might be very close to a circle, but it's will never reach like a perfect circle, or so that every part of the circle has an equal curve, right? Because it's essentially an ellipse, although it's very close to an ellipse, but it's still not. And I think that is one of the reasons why the Earth changes its rotation over time.
Yeah, energy gets slowly taken out in tidal currents. It's also the case that that causes heating, like in what's the moon out there in Jupiter's moon, Io, that has the liquid.
Yeah, that gravity causes the planet to heat up.
Gravitational friction.
Yeah, something like that. I've heard about that. But the guys from the Electric Universe says that they say that that's nonsense, because there's no. They assume that because they see, activity in the planet. They see that it has a lot of energy around. There's a lot of motion. There's a lot of heat release and everything. So they assume it might be due to gravity. But if we look at Venus, for example, there are a lot of activity there. There are like very strong winds in Venus, and that cannot be attributed to gravity, to the actions of gravity. So in the NASA people, they're kind of assuming that.
Well, I don't know if they can find any other source for the heat clear out there by Jupiter.
Well, the heat could be due to Birkeland currents that affects not only Jupiter but all of the planets in our solar system. It's sort of like you can see Jupiter as a failed sun. It's not enough to have uniform lightning, 24 hours a day uniform lightning, like in the case of the sun. but it still has a lot of activity. For example,
Yeah.
that according to the electric universe theory, that I think is much more plausible than the current gravity only theory of the mainstream.
Yeah, we're going to have to use some of the electric universe stuff, but I think some of it's pretty far out. So, I
like
mean,
like so you don't like in my case I don't agree with all of it, but I disagree with just the ones that are like more out there. Like for example, scientist from the electric universe, Thornhill, he says that gravity is due to the bending, to the extension of electrons that sort of causes an asymmetry, so that there is a difference of potential that causes gravity, but that is totally unproven, you know. So I disagree with stuff like that, but the stuff that we can actually observe, we can see Berkeley currents, we observe the forms that are seen in the lab when playing with plasma, we see them all over the universe. We see some of the phenomena in the sun, we see that's what's happening, like for example in the mainstream media we have some outlandish wild theories, like science fiction kind of theories that are, I think, much more unplausible than the electric theory.
yeah, did you catch my talk I did with Johann Ratz a couple days ago?
I started watching it, but I haven't finished yet because that's sort of rationalization by Rat. What is his name again? I kind of forgot.
I just call him Ratz.
Okay, but Rat is kind of annoying. So
He's
so
a
but I'm gonna finish it. Yeah,
yeah, no, he's insane,
yeah.
and he likes talking to me. I don't know why. He frustrates me. My blood pressure goes way up.
Yeah, yeah. He likes to hang out with objectivists, people with a different kind of philosophy. Because even though his ideas are mainstream, he kind of makes it seem like it's a fringe theory or something, but it's not.
Well, I think it's probably refreshing for him to talk to somebody with a brain because he works in academia and nobody there has a brain. So
Yeah, exactly. No one actually thinks in that direction. They just
yeah,
repeat and regurgitate what other people are saying. That's it. They're like parrots.
Massimo says we're over his head.
Yes, because really I am a bit backwards
Oh,
uh, because
well, you can go ahead and explain your side.
I was just thinking about something very much simpler than the examples that you made.
Okay.
For example, excuse me if I get back to the previous example.
Please.
Consider the case when a body is has no motion, because
Yeah.
consider, for example, yourself that are standing on the ground. Okay, so your body has no motion. You are completely still
Relative to the ground.
relative to the ground. But so we can say that your energy is constant because you are not in motion.
Well,
But you have forces acted upon you.
the surface of the Earth is moving 1,000 miles an hour at the equator.
Okay. Consider for another example. Consider I don't know, a point,
But
and
like
a starship in space.
Okay.
Okay.
things,
There are
things, things that have the same speed are addressed in relation to each other. So they're for all intents and purposes, they are addressed, right?
Yeah, we
Can
can.
we accept that there is a rest situation?
Yes.
Because if not, I can make up another situation similar without the problems that Brandon Cropper wrote about.
No, I think we can use the guy standing on the ground and see what happens.
Where I'm going to is this. This guy is at rest, so the energy is constant. But there are forces acted upon this guy. For instance, there is the gravity and there is the soil that keeps him from going deeper. So we have a situation in which there are forces, but there is no energy exchange. So what the sentence that I was thinking about was force is energy input or release. In this situation, we have force without energy input or release.
Well, okay. Like for example, the guy is not going deeper into the earth because it's been blocked by the earth. But we have sort of like an input from the from gravity, right? Because the body it's accelerating. It's trying to accelerate to the center of the earth. Isn't that like an input maybe?
But we assume that the body is at rest, so it cannot accelerate.
Yes, because it's been blocked by the ground.
Yes, and the ground is the source of one of the forces acting upon the body.
Yes, yes.
So we have a situation in which we have a body which with forces applied upon, but no energy input or release. So this is a way I was trying to criticize the definition that Brandon did in that video, which said the force is energy input or release.
Well, I think
if Brandon is so kind to accept my criticism.
Well, I'm just not sure where it goes to. I'm not sure what it accomplishes or disaccomplishes for me. Maybe you can elaborate more or something, but I don't see. I don't see what your concern is really.
The fact is that this sentence was one of the first you used in that video. So you were trying to put a solid ground to the discussion. Okay? And so you uttered this sentence, force is energy input or release. And upon this sentence, you built more and more examples in your video. My problem is that I don't agree with that single sentence, which is the starting point of the video.
So force can happen without energy input or release.
I think your example has an input because the force of gravity,
energy, an input of energy.
Well, it's
because
well,
Brandon said the input energy input.
But if there's acceleration, happening, I think there's an input of energy, like there's force.
But there is no movement. The body is at rest, so it cannot be accelerated.
Yeah, true. It cannot. It's not accelerating because it can't. But if you were to release it, if you were if the ground, like if it were to appear like a hole in the ground, it will fall right in.
Yes, but that is a completely different situation. In that, my point is that if I accept the sentence made in the old video by Brandon Cropper, I am in trouble in specific situations where it is not the case that forces are accompanied by
an input of energy.
Yes, that's the case. And the problem is that's not a sentence that was made in passing during the later part of the video. It looked like a fundamental statement, you know.
Yeah, starting premise.
Yes, and that made me uncomfortable. So I took this occasion to put it forward to you, if you can make it clear.
Well, I think that the forces are in equilibrium when the guy's just standing there. He's got the gravity pulling on him, and then he's got the electro-strong force or whatever that doesn't allow solid matter to pass through solid matter, counteracting the gravity.
Okay.
So he's got two forces working on him. He's got one holding him from being pulled further down, and the other one pulling him down.
So, there is input from an energetic input, because if there isn't no energy, where is that acceleration coming from? There has to be work. Work is being done.
Work is
Yes,
being
but you are referring to the other situation without the ground.
The gravitons are doing work of pulling him down.
Yeah, exactly. And he's not going down because the Earth is blocking the person from going down.
Yeah, there's an equilibrium of forces. If he's
forces, it's like, for example, two cars measuring forces. For example, two buffaloes head to head.
I was thinking about two horses tied to the cart in the opposite direction.
Oh, yeah, it could be that too. So they're doing work, like there's energy being input into the system.
Well, work.
It's not going anywhere, but
work in physics. Work has a very specific definition, which is energy input over distance or time. If you don't actually move, you sit and push on a wall.
I disagree.
If you sit and push on a wall all day, technically you haven't done any work because the wall didn't move.
So can you repeat the definition if it's the same that I remember?
As I remember the definition, it is energy input divided by distance, or the work done.
By the distance, yeah.
Yeah. So
I thought that work is the force multiplied by distance.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Like in my case, right now I can't remember from the top of my head, but yeah, I think it's.
Did I say divided? But
multiplied. I think it's multiplied.
Yeah, it's.
But there is the force. There is the force.
Yeah, work is the relationship between force and movement.
Yes, yes.
I accept that.
But could you say that maybe your older sentence can be amended in such a way? We can say force is energy input or release, except in the case in which forces are in equilibrium.
Well, then what would we say? That forces can sometimes be in equilibrium?
When forces are in equilibrium, there is no energy input, so we must exclude. When forces are in equilibrium, the body can stay at rest.
Well,
so there is no movement and no work.
The force of gravity is carried by a particle called a graviton.
Okay, okay. Now we are going in a field that I do not understand. So field particles. I am at a very basic level.
Well,
so I listen, but I cannot give my contribution.
Well, it turns out that particles always carry energy, and that whenever energy is observed to do whatever it does, a particle is there to do the carrying. That's just the law of our universe. They assume that every time they can't find where energy is going, they define a new particle, and then they always find it. So that's very, very, very reliable. So all force is carried by particles. So when you're standing on the surface of the Earth, gravitons are holding you there.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's basically an axiom. You know, the, there has to be agents to you know to transmit energy to something else.
including the bizarre case of gravitons.
So
So,
yeah.
and then they have found gravitons. So,
There have been an observer gravitons have been observed.
yes,
Really?
yes.
I think they detected like gravity waves, not gravitons.
Yes, I heard about gravity waves,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but not
yeah,
about the gravitons.
yeah. Like for example, the God particle, the I kind of forgot the name of the guy.
Higgs.
Higgs particles, right? Is that the name?
Higgs boson.
Oh yes, boson.
Yeah, yeah. Like that one, it was discovered under suspicious, very suspicious circumstances because they were just colliding particles and they detected, some kind of pattern, and that pattern was nothing like they predicted, and they say that they found a new particle. But so even the Higgs particle is not it's not really there's no real evidence for it, you know. But the bottom line is that there must be a particle or an agent, you know, to transmit the force of gravity.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that gives you any concerns, Massimo, but
No, but my concern is that as far as you put these things, it seems like that it is impossible for example, a high school student to understand physics because you always have to go to advanced fields like particles fields. It is difficult to understand physics on an elementary level.
well, I think that it's been muddied up a lot by modern physicists. I think
Yeah,
it's probably easier to understand than they're allowing it. They're fuzzing it up and causing more problems than there need to be.
yeah. I think in the mainstream there's a case of obscurantism. You know,
Yeah.
everything has to be made more complicated. But if you think about it, when you think about physics in terms of particles, it becomes more intuitive and comprehensible because as you can see in the microscopic world, everything is a particle, is matter interacting, you know. And for example, a lot of people think that gravity is like magic. They cannot grasp how bodies are attracted to the center of the earth, you know.
Yeah, gravity is hard to wrap your head around, and when I found out that a particle has to carry its force, that boggled my mind. But here's what Wikipedia has to say about it. In physics, the
Please.
graviton is hypothetical. So I thought it was discovered back around 2007, but maybe they just discovered evidence for it or something. But it mediates the force of gravitation in the framework of quantum field theory. If it exists, the graviton is expected to be massless and must be a spin-tube boson. So there we are, off into some pretty
Yeah,
dense stuff.
like a boson is a particle like the photon, and there are quasi-particles. They're not actually particles. They're just a characteristic of a wave, you know. Like for example, the phonon. The phonon is like the characteristic of a sound wave. We don't say that matter is made out of phonons, but the matter waves have phonons. Like for example, light waves have photons, you know. So like a photon is not really a particle, but but
Mass.
for example, I know excuse me.
Photons have mass.
Say again, please.
Photons have mass.
Photons, no, photons are massless.
How much sunlight lands on the Earth?
Photons do?
How much sunlight lands on the Earth every day?
A lot of sunlight.
I think it's about 8 pounds. Neither of you have heard of that or know about that? Let me just Google it here. Would that
Like 8 pounds
Of
of
sunlight.
energy or something?
but the photons have mass?
Well, I've heard that the photon is massless because it doesn't have rest mass.
I think the concept of mass is very tricky in this case.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if light is a wave, that's why it doesn't have rest mass because it's never at rest. It's just like a wave that imparts its energy when it passes through, right? So I kind of see why it doesn't have mass. A photon.
Maybe Brandon was thinking about the fact that light carries momentum.
Yeah, it has momentum. Yeah, it has. Yeah, actually, in the mainstream definition of a photon, yeah, momentum is involved. So
And
how come can something has momentum and has zero mass? It doesn't make sense because momentum is mass times velocity. So,
well, as far I can remember, there are two definitions of momentum. One for
okay.
massive particles, which
Uh-huh.
is the one you just told us, and one for
So,
massive particles like a photon. There are two different definitions.
yeah, and I think the latter one, the one for photons, is based on angular momentum or something.
Well,
It has to be.
as far as I can remember, it's based on the famous Einstein equation E equals mc squared. Because from them you can derive the energy and the momentum of the.
Okay, yeah. They derive the momentum from the energy, right?
Yes, because there are connected energy and momentum.
All right,
Yeah.
here's the guy from.
But for there to be energy, you have to have mass or matter.
All right, here's the guy from Stanford University that addresses this pretty well. He says, does the sunlight have mass? If by weight you mean mass, then the sun's light definitely has the equivalent of mass. Every day it would emit at 3.7 times 10 to the 14 kilograms. If you collected all that light in a box with perfect mirrors, the mass of the box would increase by that amount. This is true even though each photon in that box is massless, but the energy is equivalent to mass by E equals C, E divided by C squared. M equals E divided by C squared. So
That's the Einstein formula inverted.
yeah, that's just yeah, exactly, inversion of his formula. But so that's a very strange thing for him to say. Each photon is massless, but the energy in all those photons put together does have weight.
Yeah, but energy is also defined by a mass.
Well, yeah, E equals mc squared. So if the Earth gets hit by a whole bunch of sunlight every day, then it is gaining weight by that amount. And if I remember right, it's 4 pounds or 8 pounds a day, something like that. But the calculations can be made. So.
Mm-hmm.
But so
all these things are very confusing.
Sure.
For sure. But if as you just made us read, each photon is massless. But then it says each photon carries some energy.
And E equals mc squared.
So if the photon carries energy, and energy is equivalent to mass, how can photon be massless?
Massless,
Like,
yeah.
yes, this is the confusion I keep in my head.
Well, that's the duality of Einstein's. I mean, Einstein, his theory is very different from Newton's. Newton's theory gave us equations to understand reality. Einstein's theory gives us equations to understand our perceptions of reality. That's why he called it relativity theory, because it's relative to what each person's perceptions are. So someday we're going to have to untie his Kantian nonsense and his theories. You know, some of the stuff's going to stick and some of it straightened out or whatever. But at some point, the universe may appear to you the way it appears to you because you're viewing it, but the universe is what it is, regardless of your perspective or whatever. And Einstein named his theory relativity because he was talking about the relative way that I would view a light wave versus how you would view it. That has lots of implications. It allows us to understand a lot of things, but it is obviously not a philosophically firm foundation. So that's why his theory is not jiving with what we're coming to understand more and more in reality. So if you want my view on that, that's my view on that.
Yeah, I also agree. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I remember that Galileo also had some principle of relativity in his books.
Yeah, about
it was a different kind of relativity.
I think
and Huygens.
Oh, Huygens, go ahead.
Are you familiar with Huygens, Massimo?
I am familiar, and in fact, this afternoon I put a comment in the other video you made with Brandon. You told about.
Oh, okay, you saw it.
And I commented that I agree completely with your with you being a Huygens fan, because yes, in fact I read many years ago one of Huygens' seminal papers about the collision, on the phenomenon of the collisions.
Yeah, and, that's a great paper too.
I think this is the place where the first time it is formulated precisely the concept of momentum, decades before Newton did.
Also, if you read his papers on or I kind of forgot, Orologion or something like that, his paper on his pendulum clock.
Yes.
There he describes the laws of gravity and other things.
Yes, he's one kind of an unsung hero, Huygens.
Yeah, exactly. And also in the paper on light, that like a treatise on light, the translator mentions that. He says that Huygens' work on light was ignored for like 200 years, and it was just in the late 1800s that it was acknowledged again, and now we use Huygens right now is a household name only for his Huygens principle. That is
optical.
It's a principle. Yeah, exactly. It's a principle on optical principle. Yeah. So, but no one knows that he was he discovered pretty much of the things that are attributed to Newton.
Yeah, I've got a book here that's pretty regular. It's called The Great Scientists, and it does mention him. It says that he's Newton's status ensured Huygens' wave theory was neglected until the 19th century, but his theory gave a much better explanation than Newton's rival particle theory for the way light is reflected and refracted. And Huygens predicted correctly that light must travel more slowly in denser materials. It is now accepted that light behaves like a wave, and Newton had it only as a particle. That's fascinating. I wasn't aware. And that's all it says. It's very short. It's only 3 sentences in the whole book on it.
On the internet, there's like on the Dutch webpage, they collected his complete works. They have all his papers, all his notes, but like all that collection is in French or Dutch. There are a few translations for his works on light, for his works on collision, for his works on centrifugal force. There are a few translations, but most of his works is untranslated.
That's unfortunate.
But
Yeah,
then came Einstein and put Huygens and Newton together, because Einstein said that
yes.
Light is not completely particle, not completely wave.
Mhm.
So,
Like for example, I think that light is a wave, but it has like a photon can be seen as the normal modes of the wave. It's like the resonant frequencies that are, you know, that it's one of the characteristic of the wave. It's not actually a particle. Like Einstein said that light is particle because of the photoelectric effect, but that as a normal mode, it can be explained as a resonant phenomena. You know, so when for example you shine a light of a specific frequency on a material, if that frequency is right, it will expel electrons. But that can be a resonant effect, not a not a particle, not due to particles. You know, it's kind of tied to particles because that's the wavelength of the photon. But as we can see, a photon, it's a normal mode of the wave. So it's not really a particle if you really look at it. You know, it's a
but
wave. Light is a wave.
I remember an experiment when they used a very sensitive material on which they shone dimmer and dimmer light.
Mhm.
And when they went under a certain intensity of light on the material, it looked like the light made the points appearing, disappearing, appearing, disappearing, like it was in fact particles instead
Like
of
particles bouncing around.
appearing in the screen and suddenly disappearing, like this light produced by a lamp was in fact under a certain amount of intensity behaving like a particle. I don't know if you
Yeah,
ever.
yeah. I think I've seen that. It's sort of like for example in radiation when you have a strong source of radiation and you film it, you can see like spots of light on the screen. I guess
Something
it
like
was kind
that,
of like
yes.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, I guess that could be due to like specific places where there's a reaction. It's because a photon doesn't have a diameter. It doesn't have it doesn't. There's nothing like uh, like a shape for a photon. It has no shape. It has, like, for example, there are photons that have meters of wavelength. So it's not it can be described like that. But that's an interesting point.
Right.
Okay,
Light is a
guys,
kind of particle.
uh, I must tell you that I must go now because it's late for me and I must go. But it was very an honor and a pleasure to talk with you guys, and I hope we can make it again another time.
Yeah.
Sure thing.
Okay.
Thank you for our host Brandon, and thank you Superfin guy.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on and have a good
Thanks.
conversation.
Looking forward for the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And Super Fin Guy, we will have to get together with Johann Ratz sometime soon. He wanted to do another hangout last night and rehash everything again. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
fun to mess around with.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
It's sort of like when we kind of do a hangout, we have to have someone with a different point of view.
Yeah, you got to have somebody to bounce stuff off, or else we just sit here and agree with each other the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. One point that I would like to make about Einstein is, for example, that his theory of relativity can be thought of as a subjective view of science,
Yeah.
because relativity doesn't explain like the processes that happen, you know, in nature, that we have the effects that we see. It just it just it's just the perspective of the observer, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Like for example, in gravity, in relativity, light doesn't change its speed relative to the speed of the observer. For the observer, light always has the same speed. It says that, but it doesn't explain why that is. You know, a lot of people think that relativity is something, you know, it's something weird, magical, because it doesn't make sense at all. You know, if you're speeding up, why the light has the same, that has the same speed relative to you? It doesn't make sense.
yeah.
You know?
Well, Einstein was all covered up in Immanuel Kant's idea that perception creates reality. So he
Yeah.
had to figure out what the world looks like to him rather than try to explain what the world really is like. So that's why his theory's going to have to be ironed out someday. You know,
Yeah,
he was literally just explaining what the world looks like to him or to an observer.
and his theory, he sort of stripped the theories from the 19th century, because there were like similar theories in the 19th century. For example, you have I kind of forgot the name of the scientist, but there were scientists that Einstein borrowed his work from, you know, because the scientists from the 19th century explained the relativistic effects due to the ether. And then in the early 20th century, they made an experiment and supposedly proved that there was no ether. But there were other scientists that showed why ether didn't register in the experiment, because you have a relationship between speed and frequency, you know. So if you, as you speed up, your time slows down. So you cannot, that way you cannot, from a subjective viewpoint, you cannot measure uh, you know, the ether, because your time runs slower. So you you're in the same, you still in the same reference frame, so you cannot distinguish the change.
Yeah, there were quite a few things that were known about in like in 1870s or so. They measured the speed of light, and I think they found it to be constant as well. Um,
Uh-huh.
but maybe
Yeah, like, go ahead.
maybe it was just a measurement of the speed. I can't remember, but it was in like the 1870s, and a lot of people are under the yeah, they think that Einstein came up with a lot of the stuff, which he didn't. A lot of the stuff was known about before he even
Yeah,
wrote.
exactly. I I just can't name the sentences from the top of my head right now, but him and another one, that actually came up with a formula that Einstein uses nowadays. You know, so Einstein sort of borrowed the theory and stripped it of the ether, so right, so that it transformed in a subjectivistic theory. You know, it transformed it into epicycle, and into an epicycle, just like like they used, for example, in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, Andrew, welcome back.
Hey,
We just lost
Hey,
Massimo.
Andrew.
He left us.
Yeah.
what's the topic?
We were winding it down, actually. I didn't expect you to come back in.
Well, that's okay.
What do you got for a
It'll be in,
topic? We've been covering physics and light, the nature of photons and gravitons and such.
I don't have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
Huh.
We've covered it though, so we figured it out.
Oh, it's all done?
Oh yeah, we got that nailed down. Found out that Einstein's just a subjectivist. We're gonna have to correct Einstein's relativity theory, which is
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to go make a sandwich and take care of my daughter for a while, but if you guys are available later in this evening, after I start having a beer or two, I am going to do another hangout tonight.
Yeah. Like probably later on, I think I'll join in.
Alrighty, and
Yeah.
Andrew, it's probably like 1 or 2 where you are now, something like that?
It's 3.
3? Oh, you're in the same time zone as me then.
Yep, Eastern.
All right, well, good. A little.
Yeah, same here, same here.
Oh, Super Fin Guy, you're in Boston, huh?
Yeah.
Good deal. All right, well, maybe sometime around 8 or 9 o'clock tonight, guys, if you want to jump in. Johann Ratz wanted to do one last night, so I'm going to rope him into one tonight if he's available. Or if not, we can do it on politics, and I've got my copy of Beyond Good and Evil now, so I would love to go over some of the juicy aphorisms in that.
Okay, that
Right.
sounds.
Right on. All right, thanks for coming on. Sorry, Andrew, you came right back on before we shut it down, but all right, see you later.
By the way, Massimo is the guy that was asking in the comments that that the hangouts are always when he's asleep, right? Is
Yeah.
that the same guy?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and he's Mala Tempura Current.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thought it was the same guy. Okay.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
the one. All right, see you later.
All right. See you later. Yeah.